Join me today for the water cycle in Quran. You see, when we talk about water cycle, we need to remember that it is a cycle with 5 processes. By the way, the Muslim scholars tell us that water cycle is in Quran, but the first modern description, a scientific description of the water cycle was given not by a Muslim but by a Christian, Bernard Palissy, a 16th century scientist. Now, water cycle has 5 essential processes. Number 1, evaporation. Number 2, condensation. Number 3, precipitation. Number 4, infiltration. And number 5 continues again and again and again. Now, number 1, evaporation. The water that is present in this world in the different forms, whether it is snow, whether it is liquid water, or whether it is vapor, it returns to the clouds. We call it as evaporation. Evaporation from the underground water, for example, through the plants. Plants, they just secrete water vapor from them. We call this transpiration. And in the same way, in the snow-capped areas, the snow directly turns into water vapor through the action of the sunlight. We call this sublimation. And in the oceans and in the rivers, water rises into the water vapor through the action of the sunlight. We call as evaporation. Succinctly, this is called evapotranspiration. And through evapotranspiration, the water returns to the atmosphere in the form of water vapor. So that is number 1. Number 2 is condensation. The water vapor condenses and form water droplets which are drawn through the action of the gravity to the surface of our earth. So in the condensation is a very natural phenomenon, but it takes a real genius to observe that. You see, for example, when you take a soda from the refrigerator and keep it in the room temperature, what would you observe after some time? After some time, you see water drops being formed on the surface of the can. Where does that water come from? Not from inside the can. It comes from the atmosphere surrounding the can. We call this as condensation. The same thing happens in the clouds, and the water vapor transforms into water droplets, and which are being drawn to the surface of the planet, and we call that as rain. The technical term for that is precipitation. That is the third process. Number 4th process is when the water reaches the surface of our planet, it then infiltrates into the soil. We call this as infiltration. The water goes into the deeper layers of this earth and reaches the underground water table, from which we get the water back through different artificial means. And some of the water that does not go into the underground table, it runs off into streams and then later into canals and then into rivers and ultimately into the oceans. We call this as the runoff. So basically there are 5 processes in the water cycle, and if a divinely inspired book, it should tell us all the 5 processes.
The Quran describes the water cycle in great detail in several places. How does the water rise, evaporates, form into clouds, the clouds join together, they stack up, there's thunder and lightning, water comes down, the clouds move into the interior, they fall down as rain, and the replenishing of the water table, and alhamdulillah, in great detail. The Quran speaks about the water cycle in great detail in several places. In Surah Nur chapter number 24 verse number 43, in Surah Rum chapter number 30 verse 48, in Surah Az-Zumar chapter 39 verse 21, in Surah Mu'minun chapter 23 verse number 18, in Surah Rum chapter number 30 verse number 24, in Surah Al-Hijr chapter 15 verse number 22, in Surah Araf chapter number 7 verse number 57, in Surah Ra'd chapter number 13 verse number 17, in Surah Furqan chapter 25 verse number 40 and 49. In Surah Fatir chapter number 35 verse number 9, in Surah Yasin chapter 36 verse number 34, In Surah Jasha, chapter 45, verse number 5. In Surah Qaf, chapter number 50, verse number 9. In Surah Waqiah, chapter number 56, verse number 16 and 17. In several places. Surah Mulk, chapter 67, verse number 30. The glorious Quran speaks about the water cycle in great detail.
Now Zakir Naik quoted so many verses from Quran which he said water cycle is described in great detail. But you see folks, we need to see, let us do one thing. Let us go one by one all the verses he quoted from the Quran and see how much detail the water cycle is in here. In fact, you would see that among these 5 processes, only the last 3 are in Quran. The number 1, evapotranspiration, the water that is accumulated into the clouds from different water sources on the surface of this planet in the form of water vapor. And secondly, the condensation, how the water vapor, it condenses into water droplets. You see, these first 2 processes require a real scientific method. The remaining 3 processes, precipitation, infiltration and runoff, everybody could know that. I mean, even a child would see, look at the clouds gathering and then the clouds giving the rain, and the rain reaches the surface of our planet and then it goes into the deeper layers and then it runs off to different sources into different streams. Even a primitive man could observe this. There is no science in those 3 processes. So in order to claim that it is scientifically described, you should have all the 5, but in Quran only the last 3 are expressed in detail, not the first 2. Let me prove that in Surah 24, Ayah 43. Seest thou not that Allah makes the clouds move gently, then joins them together, then makes them into a heap, then wilt thou see rain issue forth from their midst, and he sends down from the sky mountain masses wherein is hail. He strikes therewith whom he pleases, and he turns it away from whom he pleases. The vivid flash of his lightning well nigh blinds the sight. You see folks, here actually Allah is expressed as a third person, he, Allah. Actually Muhammad is talking here. It seems Quran is the word of Muhammad, not from Allah. Then you see in Surah 30 verse 48. It is Allah who sends the winds and they raise the clouds. Then does he spreads them in the sky as he wills and break them into fragments until thou seest raindrops issue from the midst thereof. Then when he has made them reach such of these servants as he wills, behold, they do rejoice. Again here, Allah sending rain, no scientific information of any sort. And again he says that, behold, they do rejoice. I mean, people rejoice when see the rain, but not everybody. I mean, there are certain areas in this world where people would like to see a day of sunlight instead of rain. So particularly these verses refer to Arabia, where rain is very, very short and meager in its quantity. And let us see chapter 39 verse 21. Seest thou not that Allah sends down rain from the sky and leads it through springs in the air? Then he causes to grow therewith produce of various colors, then it withers. Thou wilt see it grow yellow, then he makes it dry up and crumble away. Truly in this is a message of remembrance to men of understanding. You see, it is just saying that Allah is sending rain. I mean, you don't have to be a scientist or a prophet to know that clouds send rain.